Imagine this. You're alone, all alone, in a cold, dark room. There are no windows. There are no doors. There's no way out. The only sound you hear are the racing thoughts inside your head. The smell is foul, and there's a bitter taste in your mouth, like scorched coffee. This is how it feels. This is how it often feels when people are experiencing things like depression and suicidal thoughts. I know it's what it felt like for me. And as we close out Suicide Prevention Month, I'd like to start our time together here by sitting together in a moment and holding in our hearts those we have lost and loved to suicide, overdose, and the consequences of addiction, as well as those who continue to fight to stay. This is the reason we are here. Lights, please. Now, as you were holding those people in your heart, I bet you saw their faces and remembered them. I did too. You see, I lost my brother to suicide in 2004. And like many of you, this was my before and after moment. So for all of you out there who have lived experience with suicide as loss survivors, attempt survivors, thought survivors, and caregivers and support people for people who are fighting to stay another day, I see you. And I want to tell you that you matter here. Your voices matter here. Your wisdom matters here. And we can't do this work without you. A nonprofit that I'm working with called United Suicide Survivors International, we put the expertise of people with lived experience at the center of our conversations around suicide. And I am so glad that you are here to help change the narrative and tell a more powerful tale of support and recovery when it comes to suicide. Over the last 15 years that I've been working with the trades, I've heard your stories. I've heard your stories of being often the only one in a good old boys club, and the loneliness that brings. And then you layer on, if you're an older woman, if you're a woman of color, if you're a lesbian or a bisexual or a transgender woman, and all the isms and phobias that come with you that drive that sense of isolation. The discrimination and the prejudice you face every day is real. I've also heard your stories of trying to balance all of the caregiving roles that you provide for your children and your parents and your friends with this demanding job and the stress that it takes on you every single day. I've heard your stories of sexual harassment and assault and bullying and the efforts sometimes that happen in the aftermath to just push it in the closet and move on. I've heard your stories of not having the right PPE or sanitation needs that present you with very significant safety and health risks. And I've heard how lonely it can be sometimes without having a mentor or a proper pathway to career opportunities. I've heard your struggles. And I've also seen your leadership. I've been working in this space for about 15 years in a male-dominated community, and it's often the women who are carrying the flag around mental health promotion, suicide prevention, addiction recovery, and overdose prevention. The Jen Masseys, the Alana Marklins, the Jamie Beckers, the Vicki O'Learys, the Nicoles, the Carries, the Christies, the Sonias. There's so many of you out there that will not quit, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate the way you are promoting resources and not just plastering them on a wall, but bringing them to life, like 988, the 911 for mental health emergencies, and making that be an incredible, trustworthy, and accessible resource for people that they can access in the moment of needing support. Many of you have gone out and kicked the tires of your member assistance programs or your employee assistance programs, and some of you have found they're no good. And we need to do better. We need to provide better benefits for our people. But you don't just create awareness. Many of you also are increasing your skills to have compassionate conversations with people who are hurting, to come alongside people and ask those difficult questions about addiction and suicide, to provide motivational support, and to be a warm bridge to supporting resources. You are saving lives every day. And I feel so grateful to work in construction with you because you all are some problem-solving people. When you see a problem, you work to fix that problem. And the unions already have this great sense of I've got your back. And together, that makes you way ahead of the game with a lot of other industries. They are looking to you to try to figure out how to decrease suffering and isolation that they see in their own workplaces. The next level of this, we've got to look at systems and cultural change. We need to make it okay to reach up and reach out to support one another before things become catastrophic. And so that's my charge to you, to tell a more powerful tale and to stand alongside each other in these dark times. So as I close, I want you to pull out your phones, okay? And I want you to turn your lights on like this, okay? And we're going to dim the lights again in just a second. And when we do, I want you to hold your lights up if your answer to my question is yes. All right, let's turn the lights down. If you have lost a loved one or someone close to you to suicide, overdose, or the consequences of addiction, hold your lights, keep them high. You are all shining lights of hope in the dark. Because when people move on to the next shiny thing, it's our lost survivors that are often there carrying the flag and say, do not forget this. Our loved ones did not die in vain. Lower your lights, please. If you have ever struggled with the long, dark night of your soul yourself through anxiety, depression, trauma, addiction, substance use disorder, or if you have ever walked alongside someone who's fighting through those things, lift your lights and hold them high. You are all shining lights of hope in the dark because when people are struggling, you can come alongside them and say, listen, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I have walked a similar path, and I will walk with you. Lower your lights. And finally, if you support this movement, this mental health movement in construction, light your lights. I'm pretty sure you've all been lighting them with me the whole way through. This is everybody. And now, this is an incredible sight to see from up here. I'm sure I'm not the only one crying. You are amazing. And when people are struggling and they look up, and that person in the dark at the beginning, and they look up and they see all of you, I see you. I will walk with you. I care about you. You matter to me. And you know what? I have some ideas of things that we can look at together to get you to the other side. Lower their lights. So in the end, be the light or bring the light, because light is life. Lights, please. Woo. When I look out to your faces, I see resilience. I see resolve. I see sadness. I see pain. I see perseverance. And when I scan all of you, I see a sea of solidarity. So let's pull together and stand together to make sure that no one dies in isolation and despair, and that people can find their way back to a passion for living. Thank you.